My name's Helen Budd. I'm the program manager of the Student Veterans Resource Center at the University of Michigan Flint. Go Blue. I've been there 7 years and counting, and I love it. And I work with our student, veteran, and military connected student population, assisting them with veterans education benefits, and now more so in the programming and getting more involved in the student affairs side of things, looking at starting a mentoring program and all kinds of exciting stuff. So stay tuned for more information on that. Who'd like to go first?
Right.
Who's first up?
Michael.
Okay, Michael Castor. Would you like, well, we've already got your branch up there, but can you tell us a little bit about what you did while you served? Your time that you've spent in your school and career, and your hopes and dreams for the future.
Mm-hmm. So I was in the Army Reserves as a civil affairs specialist. And the easiest way for me to describe it is I'm a diplomat for the military. I go out with cav or infantry. I can even be assigned with special forces and just try to help the native population of whatever country I go to, like fix their problems or find some solutions to help the commander of the area do his job better and help mitigate any conflicts that could come up. I think this is my second full year at U of M Flint right now. And I'm in the social studies TCP program here. And I decided that because I've always had a passion for teaching and social studies in general. And that connects with my civil affairs job because I need to know the history. I need to know the politics of the places. No, I need to know the culture, and those two really complement each other.
Hey, Michael, you're breaking up a little bit. You might want to, Michael?
For
Michael?
My hopes and dreams, it's just, I have to say it goes along with teaching. I just want to be able to inspire students. Yeah.
My Phil's breaking up. Michael,
Can you hear me?
Oh, there you go. You're breaking up, Mike. Is it possible to turn the video off while you're speaking and see if that helps the bandwidth?
Yeah.
There you go.
Are you able, how am I now?
I can hear you now.
Okay. But finally, like my hopes and dreams is just to be able to inspire students to go forth and do what they want to do. I don't want to put on them any expectations, or they have to go into some sort of line that anyone else wants them to do. I want them to do what they feel is right. And I want to be able, and I feel I can do that best through my teaching.
Can you tell us why did you join the military? What was it about military life that appealed to you, and how that came about?
I joined the military so I can get a new experience. I love having new experiences, and I felt joining it was going to be good for me in that regard, and then just me and finding who I am and just that experience. I love, like I said, love new experiences, and I've had a long military heritage in my family. My dad, my grandfather, on both sides, just going
back generations, and I kind of wanted to keep that going.
Fantastic. I'd like to hit, we always like to hit upon the good and bad of your service. Can you tell us about that? What it taught you, who you met, friendships formed, and diversity that you witnessed?
Yeah.
Well, witnessing, because you're currently still serving in the reserve, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'd have to say the good I have experienced is the phenomenal leadership that I've been able to have. I can honestly say I've only had one bad and toxic leader, but everyone else I had in the military, they go above and beyond, not just for their own team, but for others. I've had people in different units and different companies and within my own unit go out of their way just to help others that need it, and help myself especially. And there's been a few tough times, and having that one person uh, really helpful. Um, the and then the bad, like I said, there's every so often you'll have those bad leaders, but I try not to, like, I never let that sully the good that the diversity. I can say I've with my job, I've seen a lot of good diversity, Hispanic, African American. Um, we have someone from Albania in my company too, and we, being civil affairs, we bring in all those walkways of life and all those personal experiences that they, as a race or as a culture, can bring in to help give us more of an insight of what we could deal with in those regions, and just make us more mindful of those different races and cultures in itself, so we know not to, like, what lines not to step over.
Okay. I think you already talked about how your, excuse me, how your military service has impacted your studies or life goals.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything you wanted to add?
I would have to say keep that discipline that we've learned. That's the biggest thing. I used to be a big procrastinator in high school, and the discipline that I got from the military has hugely impacted how I am in college. In high school, I was like a C to low B student. Now I'm getting A's and high B's, and without that discipline, I don't think I'd ever be able to achieve that.
Yeah, I see and hear that a lot. I think that's awesome. If there's anything that we can do in Flint to assist you in any way, just reach out because I'm always available. I hope you get our listserv messages. We're always there. Even if we're not on campus, we're there for you.
Thank you.
Can you explain what what would you like your professors, colleagues, and peers to know about military service and your service in particular, what you do, and how that can impact other student veterans who are on campus?
Mm-hmm. For the professors, the biggest thing I'd have to say is, like, there's two things. If they have a student that's either in the National Guard or the Reserve, to be mindful that the monthly weekends come up, and sometimes it will be very difficult to do homework for that student to be able to do homework if it's like a tight deadline. Thankfully, and on the student, you just need to reach out to your professor and say, hey, I'm in the Guard or the Reserve, and whenever I have a drill, if it impacts the due date of homework, might I get an extension, or can we work something out so I don't fail that assignment? And 9 times out of 10, and hopefully 10 out of 10, they will work with you. For colleagues and peers, I'd have to say some veterans I've seen, they won't open up. They'll keep things hidden. Don't try to pry. Just be there for them if you feel something's wrong. And eventually they will open up to and confide that in you. And when they do, just be there. Like hug them, hold them, do whatever you need to solidify that you will be there for them, and it will be okay.
All right. I'm not allowed to hug people, but I'm definitely there for them.
Yep.
Is there anything that you'd like to add before we move on to our next panelist?
Nope, nothing I can think of.
Hey, Michael, thank you. Thank you for sharing that information.
Not a problem.
Okay, Phil, who's up next?
I don't think Ezekiel is here.
Okay, shall we skip to the next one until he's here?
I don't think he's here. Are you here? Did I miss you somehow? I don't think so. So let's try Joel.
Okay, Joel Cohen, how are you today? Would you like to introduce yourself with your name, branch, and what you did while serving?
I'm Joel. I was in the Air Force for 10 years, active duty. My specialty was 2W0, which is ammo, which means anything that goes boom. I was supposed to either assemble, disassemble, test, take care of, issue, all that. Took me to different parts of the world. It's basically the best I could describe it without making up a bunch of acronyms that no one would quite get.
Have you spent a lot of time in school, and what are your hopes for school and career and future in the civilian world?
So I just transferred into U of M last winter. Currently studying communications, trying to look into the field of advertisement. So hoping to do that, and then I guess the end game is just a bunch of money so I can retire early.
Hey, that works. What prompted you to join the military?
Let's see. I joined maybe 6 or 8 months after high school, so that would have been 2008, and that was when the recession hit. So I didn't have a lot of options. I didn't want student loans. I didn't think I was responsible enough to go to school yet. So I enlisted, and actually I'm from Michigan originally, so Michigan was hit pretty hard during that time. So I ran into all kinds of people joined at the same time that were from Michigan. So
Great. Now, how did you decide upon your current specific field of study?
I'm not even sure. It sounded good.
Did you enjoy talking with people, or
No, more the
just
persuasive side of things. We did a lot of war planning and things like that. So, convincing people that this is a better idea than that idea and such.
We like to hit upon the good and bad of your service, what it taught you, who you met, the friendships that you formed, and diversity that you witnessed. And please remember, this is a choice. If you're not comfortable answering a question or it triggers something you do not want to talk about at the moment, certainly take that into consideration, and it is up to you if you'd like to answer or not. But please go ahead with what you would like to answer on that.
The good, I would say, would be got see some places I'd never seen before, had the opportunity to. Met a lot of good people in the military from all walks of life, from all different backgrounds, situations, and such. And you form close bonds with some of those people. I guess hardship, kind of breaks everything down when you're in it together. So like those bonds I'll have with some of those guys for, the rest of my life. Worked with a lot of people from foreign countries, other organization, other militaries, um, civilian contractors, things of that nature. Let's see here. Um, Different cultural aspects. Forgot where I was going. What was the other question?
Let's see. Friendships formed and diversity witnessed.
So friendships formed. Like I said, I have some guys I served with that we don't talk that often, but like at the drop of a hat, if one of them were to contact me to ask me to come get them somewhere or to meet them or they need something, without question, I would do that. And I can't say a lot of people in the world have like that type of relationship or bond with someone. So, that's pretty cool. Diversity, as I mentioned before, working with different militaries, and we also had, people from different countries who were not U.S. citizens but were enlisted in the U.S. military. So that was kind of cool because they, you worked with them every day and you kind of shared like their culture and background and stuff like that with you.
Great. And I was an immigrant myself. That is a way to go to join the military and serve, and it's a path to citizenship that is very helpful. What would you like your professors, colleagues, and peers to know about military service and your service in particular?
Nothing particular. Just I guess we look through a different lens. We see more of the, I guess, a big picture concept of events in the world and things like that. Kind of dive a little more into detail on specifics instead of just looking at what's directly in front of us. We kind of take it all in, so we evaluate and things like that a little more meticulous.
Right. Do you feel that's enriched your conversations in the classroom and in your assignments?
Maybe in the assignments, I'd probably say in the classroom, it probably prevents you from sharing, just because it might, you might have a little different view, or you might elaborate or expand more than someone else would be thinking. So one thing from the military you learn is to like observe before you kind of act. So you take a lot of that time just listening to people and hearing what they have to say, and before you want to respond or interact, type of thing. gauge the situation.
Okay. I think that is it. There was one question I think I missed about how your military service has impacted your studies or life goals.
Let's see, impact on my studies. Um, from the panelists before me, I kind of had the opposite discipline of planning, getting stuff done. I would say procrastination is my favorite thing, and it could have been just the decade of like last minute. We have to do this. This just came down. We have to go here. So used to working under that chaos, that high pressure situation. So when I have all the time in the world, it kind of demotivates me or slows me down. But like if it's a last second thing, then I'm firing in all cylinders.
Mm. Do you find that that has been challenging or helpful for your time at U of M during your classes?
I would say it's a double-edged sword. So if something comes down last minute, there's no panic. Then that's my dojo, so to speak. That's where I operate best in is, oh no, last second type of thing. It's when I have more time or more planning, those things don't seem to be as successful, or the quality of it, I guess, would say, goes down than if it was like the pressure's on type of situation.
Right. Well, Joel, thank you for sharing your experiences. Greatly appreciate that and for being here today.
You're welcome.
Phil, would you like to move forward? Lydia, Lydia Pinkham, you are up next. I see that you're a U.S. Coast Guard member. Would you like to introduce yourself and what you did while you were serving and your time in school and career and your hopes for the future?
Hi, Helen.
Hello.
Yes, I'm Lydia. I'm studying geology in the Earth Department at U of M, and my minor is biological anthropology in the Anthro Department. I was in the Coast Guard from 2011 to 2017, and kind of did a mix of everything. Mostly because the Coast Guard is so small that what they do is take a lot of jobs from other services like the Navy and combine them down into one. So I was a machinery technician, which kind of incorporates 3 or 4 different jobs from the Navy that are like boiler technicians, machinist mates, a little bit of electronics tech. So people in the Coast Guard kind of do a wide variety of things depending on what unit we're at, just because we don't have a lot of people and we don't have a lot of units. So I also served, because of that, I also served as a first responder, a law enforcement officer, and a tactical operations crew member. And my main reason for joining was for education benefits. And I also kind of needed a little bit of direction at that time in my life. I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. And while I was on active duty, I started taking classes part-time to work on my undergraduate prerequisites and fell in love again with the science world. And I love earth science and natural science. And I chose U of M because it has a phenomenal geology department and opportunities like Camp Davis and lab work and internships.
Great.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you. I don't have a lot of Coast Guardsmen at U of M Flint yet, but I have several that have graduated recently, which is really exciting for us. We'd like to hit upon the good and bad of your service. Can you explain what that taught you, who you met, the type of friendships that you formed, and the diversity that you witnessed in the Coast Guard?
Sure. As far as the relationships go, I think one thing that most military members experience is making friends with people that are outside just their normal people that they would normally interact with. I was, I don't know how else to put it. My parents are kind of hippies, and I'd never touched a gun before going to boot camp. And when I started serving, I was making friends with people from all over the country and all different backgrounds, educational, economic backgrounds, and just got to be friends and get to know so many different people and have this weird brother sisterhood connection that you really don't share with other people. And so people that I probably wouldn't have been friends with like in high school, say, or even in college, are now some of the best friendships that I have because we're so close. And people that you may disagree with on political beliefs or religious beliefs or just overall personality wise, at the end of the day, you know that they will grab your vest and pull you away from something, and that they really have your back. And I think that was my favorite part was the relationships and getting to know different people. And it's a very valuable experience for young people to have and to see the world and meet people that are different from them.
How do you feel that your military services impact your studies, or in particular your life goals?
Well, it's definitely helped with my time management skills. Setting, I really like lists. I like making lists, and that really helps me with school. So setting goals. I know that nowadays with online school, it's a little harder to focus during the day. But I think that my time really helped me with my time management, kind of holding myself accountable and setting goals. But it also, part of my job at a couple of my units was to teach, and also some public speaking experience with giving oral briefs to commanders, things like that. And so I really discovered a love for teaching and just sharing information. And one of my favorite things about the earth science and natural science world is just sharing information with other people and like telling them cool facts. And my friends probably find it annoying, but I love doing it. So it also, I think the military kind of teaches you to use the resources you have around you and to look things up and reach out when you need help. And that's been very helpful, especially in a STEM field.
Mm-hmm. What would you like your professors, colleagues, and peers to know about military service and your service in particular? What do you tell them about the Coast Guard, and what do you expect from your faculty and colleagues?
I think that Joel and Michael both touched on important points, is that there are a lot of students in the service that are still serving. And, when those drill weekends come up, having a little bit of flexibility in school. I know a couple of veterans who, are dealing with some issues from that resulted from their military service. And when they reach out to teachers for a little bit of, like an extension on an assignment, really does go a long way mental health wise. But I guess another important thing is that we all bring something different to the table. And I think that's important as students for our teachers to know, so that when we have group discussions or, our perspective on something might be a little unique. But we all have a different background. We all had different experiences, and that translates differently to us as students. So some people want to talk about their experiences and some people don't, but if they do, I would encourage teachers to listen and just kind of think about how that student might be able to help the discussion in their class, or to teach other students about what our lives were like.
Was it a big, like a culture shock when you came into U of M? Did you go through a transitional program like Warrior Scholars Project? And if you didn't, do you think that would have been something that would have been helpful?
I think it might have been helpful, yes. I started school full-time within about a month of leaving active service. And I think the hardest part for me was going from a 24/7 job. I was working in a search and rescue unit, and going from a 24/7 job, being on my feet, doing manual labor, helping people every single day, to sitting in a classroom watching lectures. Mm. And I was, still am a little bit of an adrenaline junkie, and it was a hard transition. And I just felt like I wasn't doing anything and I wasn't being productive. And it took me a couple months to get used to that just completely different pace of life. And I had to find other ways to kind of stay active and keep my brain engaged outside of school. And making friends was a little tough, because when you're 10 years older than all of the kids in your classes, mm-hmm. it's a little hard to make those connections. And I luckily met some veteran students through the SVA and through PAVE. And I also made friends with some of the graduate students in my department that I'm better friends with, because we're closer in age and different phases of life. Mm-hmm. So it was just a little bit of a culture shock, but I love school, and so it was easy to adapt after a couple months.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Lydia, for sharing.
You're welcome.
Phil, would you like to proceed to the next participant?
If Ezekiel is not here, let me check and make sure. Join us late. Hope I don't show him. That's it for our panelists as far as folks we have. We can certainly open it up to questions from our audience today too.
I would like to ask the panelists. I know that I just asked Lydia this specific question, but have any of you participated in a transition program or orientation? And if you did, was it helpful to you? And if you didn't, do you think on hindsight that it would have been helpful in the transition to academic life? And feel free to, if you can unmute yourself to answer that.
I guess for those of the folks listening in, the military does provide what's called TAPS. It's the Transition Assistance. I can't even remember the full. It's a transition to civilian life program, and it's usually a 2-week course that people exiting the military go through, and they teach you things like how to register for VA healthcare, how to make a civilian resume, how to shop on the market for health insurance. They teach you a lot of these things that you really don't have to do in the military. Health insurance, for example, when you have a cold in the military, you walk across the base and you go to the doc on base and he gives you medicine. So one of the intimidating things for me as a civilian was shopping for health insurance. And this was before I was even aware of what was available at the VA. So there are these, in the military, things to teach you about being a civilian, but that program doesn't really focus on what it's like to be a student. So I didn't go through a program myself, but I know some other students who have gone through things like the Warrior Scholars Program and other vets that have actually worked for Warrior Scholars. And they find it to be really valuable because it's addressing a really small subset of veterans and not just teaching them things like how to write a resume. So I know it's helpful for others.
Michael and Joel, would you like to comment on transition and if a program like that would have assisted you when you joined the university?
Like Lydia was saying, I went through the TAPS program, exiting the military, which is a requirement from Congress, I believe now. Mm-hmm. But I didn't participate in any transitional program for going to school. I didn't even know such programs were offered until after the fact. So sometimes that information doesn't get pushed out. It might be around the campuses and schools, but for someone getting out and interested in going to school, you don't necessarily have access to those resources or know they exist unless you're closer to the campus or somewhere around there. So yeah, that part, I remember I was knocking down doors, sending out emails. I was calling, you know, trying to find out any information. And then eventually I got hooked up with Jan over there at WCC, and then the Voc Rehab program and stuff like that. And they got me on track. So that was good.
Good. Michael, and we don't have a program like that at the moment. It's something that I am looking into for new transitioning student veterans. And I'm working on building something that we can offer in advance of a semester. And how that goes will depend on funding and everything else. But is it something that would have been helpful to you at one of our at our North Campus to transition in? Is it something that you would have enjoyed or participated in?
I think I definitely will have participated in it, because being in the reserve, I've never had, to my knowledge, I never like had those programs that I was able to see. But having a transition or orientation at the schools for incoming vets, like once they apply, and it's, I believe one of the questions is, are you a veteran?
Mm-hmm.
I definitely think the school should reach out and say, hey, we have this orientation.
Mm-hmm.
We'll work with you. We'll have people there to get you through the entire process for registering for classes, for signing up for benefits, walk you through those steps. I definitely think something like that would help myself and others, just so they don't get any tight kind of confusion when registering for classes or going to a school, because it can be a very confusing process when not understood or shown correctly.
Right, right. We have been offering a pre-orientation briefing, we call it, to go over. We first meet at the Student Veterans Resource Centers to introduce you to other students participating. And then we go over to the classroom, because it's just easier for presentation purposes, to go over the VA benefit side of things, what's expected for GPA and so on. And then we walk over to the orientation, but not everybody can attend on-campus orientation. So I would welcome suggestions on how we can do that better. We do open it to graduate students as well as undergraduate students. But if you have some suggestions on how we can do that better, I would definitely welcome them.
Hey, Helen, we had a question on chat.
Yes.
So
Let's see.
the question, and this is for any of the panelists, could be, how difficult was it to apply and gather materials for the admission process? And did you receive transfer credit for the classes that you expected? So did you receive transfer credit for the amount you expected when you came? And then talk a little bit about the application process. Was it difficult, and are there things that we could have done to have made it easier for you? That could be all of the panelists.
I will say that it really, really depends on the school. For instance, I did a full year at Washtenaw Community College, like Joel, before coming to U of M. And getting into Washtenaw, it's a community college. You register and you're in. They gave me some departmental credit for my military transcript, but most of us in the military have transcripts with like leadership courses, and like I had to go to school to learn hydraulics, and I was an ACNR technician and a diesel mechanic. So those classes really are not going to get me any credit at a school like U of M. U of M was very picky on accepting transfer credit in general. I had to retake biology, but I finally got my writing requirement transfer credit approved. So it really does depend on the school and what your field of study is. Maybe if I had done something engineering related, I could have gotten some elective credit. Unfortunately, there's no physical fitness class requirement at U of M because we would all have that satisfied. But it really does depend on your school and what the school requires for your degree. And as far as the application process, it's the same thing. If you are applying to a school that still requires SAT scores and you're like me and older trying to go back to school, you have to pay a fee that's like $35 to have an archived SAT score sent to your school. So it could be a little more expensive if you're getting transcripts that are 10 years old. But it depends on the school. But overall, the application process wasn't too hard. It's just a matter of, setting aside a couple days to write some essays. And for anyone applying, I would suggest getting in touch with somebody at the school in the admissions department to ask them questions like, do I still need an SAT score? Or since I'm really old, do I not have to submit it anymore? So get in touch with the school because it just depends on what they require.
Yeah, like Lydia was saying, the transferring of credits was kind of a hit or miss. Washtenaw, my military credits came in as like mechanical credits. So if I wanted to work in HVAC or something like that, then they were all for them. They would take them. But for U of M didn't want any of them. But the thing about the Air Force is their credits come through. They have their own community college, Air Force Community College, and they're an accredited institution. So when I applied for U of M, they were supposed to get my Air Force transcripts, but the Air Force no longer was sending them out. And then U of M, they stopped my application after the fact and said that it was incomplete because they didn't have Air Force transcripts, even though U of M had looked at the unofficial transcripts and said, there's nothing here we can take. But because it was an accredited institution, they said they needed those transcripts. So that was a long and painful back and forth process. So sometimes those transcripts can screw you over if you don't have access to them any longer.
As for me, gathering the materials and to apply for the admissions process wasn't difficult. I started first back in high school because I wanted to go to school first, and then I decided to join the reserves. I think I applied a total of two or three times to U of M Flint, and just never went until the second or third time. And I started off at Mott Community College, and thankfully Michigan has a transfer agreement between and the way it works is if schools have signed on to it, then it's a lot easier to transfer credits. And a lot of my credits did transfer. I think I transferred in like 60 or 70 credits. And I know I transferred in some from the military through the Joint Transcript Service, and that took a week or so for them to get. And it was thanks to Helen that I found that website out, and it saved me a class or two, but it was still worth it because school is expensive.
We have some other comments. They're just asking if we could. There's a reporter for the Michigan Daily just asking our panelists to stay afterwards, if you don't mind. Let's see. One other just came through. Oh, that's it. There was a suggestion from Susan about maybe we should put something out there about our messaging about saving transcripts, about having them sealed, which would be a good idea for future use for students. anything else on admissions or orientation or anything as we, when we got you here, kind of things we could have done better or done differently? Anybody?
I think the biggest thing to help students and veteran students in general, and all students, is just making them aware of resources. And U of M does a really good job with, we get emails daily from events you can attend, free things you can get on campus. But from a lot of the veteran students I know, one of the most important things to us is being financially stable while we're in school. And a lot of veterans nationwide drop out of school because they can't afford things like childcare and housing costs for living off campus as members of, they call us non-traditional students, but we're a little older. A lot of us have families, and we don't want to live in a dorm. So supporting ourselves outside of campus. I know a couple in our community here that are also supporting their parents. And so financial standing is really important to the vet community. And so making students aware of every possible financial support that they might have access to, even outside of the financial aid office, whether it be a grand master list of scholarships that veterans are eligible for, that would go a long way with a student community, because I know I like lists. The military gives you a manual for how to do everything. And so we are used to just checking things off a list and looking something up in a manual. And, even just a checklist of scholarships that when you're an incoming student or a returning student every year, apply for everything on this list because you can. So just making resources known and available. It was, I think, 2 years at U of M before I even heard of the returning student scholarship. And that's, maybe up to like $5,000 a year for students. And that's a big impact for a lot of kids. So.
It looks like there's a question on there about physical fitness, Lydia. Keep up with it as a student or if you care. Ooh.
Yeah, it says, wondering how you think about the level of physical fitness that you had in your previous life and how to keep up when you're a student or if we care about it. I have mixed feelings about PT while in the service because it was great for keeping us in shape, but I also did not like waking up very, very early in the morning to go run with a bunch of people. And so I think shortly after I got out, I had stopped doing that daily PT, and I eventually realized how good exercise had been for my mental health. And I kind of am slowly getting back into running. And when I was at Washtenaw, I had access to the fitness center there. They have an amazing pool, so I was swimming like every day. So I think that for me, it is more relevant to my mental health. But I know a lot of vets in our, at least U of M community, are still very physically active because it was such a big part of their lives. And I think it's mental health as well as physical health for a lot of us. So.
Yeah, I'll touch on that for a second. So yeah, that transition, before you had to be physically fit, you had to meet certain standards, and then you get out and you kind of let that go to the wayside every once in a while. You let your hair down, like, I don't have to run, X amount of distance and X amount of time. So maybe start eating the pizza, guzzling the beer, and then next thing you know, you go to walk up a flight of stairs and you're out of breath. And you're like, crap. And so then you get back into it. So it's a balancing act. You go back and forth with it, like, I don't need to, be that active, or, I guess the best is just to find something that you enjoy. For me, I love the outdoors. Big into fly fishing, hiking, things like that. So that's what I do. You know, some trail running and stuff like that, just to keep myself active, so I don't go to the wayside.
I agree with Joel. It's definitely a balancing act. There are times where I pick up physical fitness, and then it's like, yeah, I'll take a skip week, and that skip week turns into a month or two, and then I pick it up again. And sometimes, a lot of times, I say having someone there to like push you along. I was working out with some friends for a good year, and then they moved away, and then it's like I try to contact my other friends that are still living here, and they're like, oh no, I don't want to work out, I don't want to work out. To me, I definitely like that group that Lydia was saying, just working out in a group. To me, that helps me, so I know I'm not the only one suffering, and that everyone else there is suffering too.
I'm looking up a couple of resources that may be helpful to you guys, like Camp Liberty. There are other organizations for outdoor pursuits like hunting and things like that. I'm going to post those in the chat for you.
Team RWB is really good too.
Yes.
We have a local chapter in Ann Arbor. They're very active. They do things from kind of low impact, kind of going to watching a sporting event, to like, 5K kind of, triathlon, Ironman competition kind of thing. So, I mean, it can run the full gamut of things you do. But I think you're right, Michael, kind of having that battle buddy, that running buddy, I think helps out a lot of just keeping you going and keeping us from being on the couch. So,
and Michael, we also have a chapter of Team RWB in Flint. I can connect you with those folks.
I'll second Team RWB. That was the one in Ann Arbor is a really great group, and it's one of the founding groups of RWB nationwide.
Yeah. And
I spent the summer in Denver for an internship and was able to find an RWB chapter out there just to, I didn't run with them, but finding good running trails. I asked them for recommendations of places to go, and RWB is a really cool community, and they do community service as well too.
I also recommend club sports, or just when we get back to normal, being able to actually compete with some folks. We had a flag football team a couple years ago. We've done some other kind of events as a veteran team, or just folks going out and doing it on their own. About 6 years ago, we had a person compete on the varsity shooting club. So he was on the shooting team, and so he was actually in competition statewide for doing that. So Marine, trained, uses Marine. I mean, who says Marine Corps training? He can't do anything in college with, right? So he used his riflery training to actually do to work on the shooting club. So there's things to do, absolutely. And that scholarship idea was a very good idea, Lydia. So I think we're going to work on that. Antonio's was talking kind of on the chat too, and that's something we can post, even not just veteran specific ones, but actually ones from the schools and colleges.
We have a blanket scholarship application that'll be available December 1st at U of M Flint. We strongly encourage you to submit that and see what you qualify for as an undergraduate student. The priority deadline is usually February 14th. So if you've got a FAFSA in for the 2021-22 academic year, definitely look out for that scholarship application. Student Veterans Resource Center will be sending something out, because we do have an SVRC grant that's funded by the license plate scholarship. It's funded by the license plate revenue for UM Flint. I'm not sure if UM Ann Arbor has a similar thing, but our UM Flint license plates funds the SVRC scholarship. So it's something definitely to look out for.
So somebody asked about veterans on campus, and Helen, you might have your numbers. For the Ann Arbor campus, we have right around 414, I think, students. Now, most of those are graduate students. So we have about 135, I think, undergraduate students at the U of M campus who are veterans or military. So that's veterans who have served, or military who are National Guard, Reserve, or active duty. And then, the other part of that is the graduate folks. So that's how many we have. And that doesn't count ROTC folks either. So we're not counting the ROTC guys because they haven't served yet. Helen, how much do you have on your campus?
We usually average about 250, if not higher. And those are the ones who actually do notify us when they apply that they are veteran or serving.
So not extremely likely as a possibility. They asked like, what's the likelihood of having it? It's still a very, very small pot over the campus. But the other thing to know when we're talking about military students and our students, hopefully you kind of got this, is that you don't necessarily know. So there's no kind of one look, one attitude, one major, one of anything that comprises our veteran military students on campus. They're a diverse mix who have a diverse interests and majors and likes, political views, hairstyles, beard styles, men and women, gay and straight. I mean, it runs the whole gamut of where we are. So just want to make sure that everybody knows that there's not, and hopefully you saw on the panel today, we're not monolithic by any stretch of the imagination. So knowing that too. So it's good to just, ask if there are, or make like that, we make a lot of ally statements about other groups of just saying, hey, if there's anybody in here that's serving in the military or serving, we certainly welcome your ideas and thank you for being here. I mean, those kind of just blanket statements is good to know that you're an ally for them and that they can come and talk to you about whatever is going on in their life.
Phil, I did have a suggestion for U of M on the process of application. Making a clear path on how to get into U of M could increase the population of veteran undergraduates. I mean, me personally, I would have loved to start it out, first year, at U of M, but the distance out of school and that time spent in the military, there was, as far as the criteria for U of M, didn't even come close. So like Lydia, we had to go to Washtenaw, and so I wouldn't say it was a bad experience. It was a good way of getting in, getting used to it. But I think if there was an option, other than coming straight from high school, to start your 4-year program at U of M, if there was a better transition from veterans coming out of the military to get into one of those 4-year universities from the ground floor. I think that's an issue across a lot of universities. The path to get in at the beginning is very narrow and unclear.
Yeah, we do have a little bit of gaps when we're talking about. I think we have a pretty good route for our transfer students, and our transfer student pathway through Washtenaw is one of the best ways to go. So you both did it well. And we have, our first year students who are traditional students have that path. And I think there is the thing that we could work on with what about non-traditional students who actually would qualify for first year student status. So, you got good, when we have a few who got great grades in high school and just choose to join the military, like what would their pathway look like and how does it kind of not fit with our current traditional student model through maybe the Common App or Coalition App? And that's something that we probably can go through and look at again.
So at U of M Flint, we do have a good partnership with Mott Community College, which is our largest feeder institution, and Delta. And our admissions office is phenomenal about funneling our student veteran applicants to the Student Veterans Resource Center so that we can work with them from the get-go and help them on that path to entry and success in the program. And I'm sorry, Lydia, I
Oh, that's okay.
interrupted you.
I guess I'll echo what Joel mentioned. He and I are both very lucky to have a place like Washtenaw, and the Veterans Service Office at Washtenaw is just, I cannot say enough things about the women that work in that office. And if it weren't for them, you know, they gave us a very clear path and said, you know, okay, what is your desired major at U of M? And they took us to that website and said, these are the prerequisites that you need to meet to get this degree. So let's help you look at the course equivalencies here at Washtenaw and knock those things out so that when you get to U of M, you can start in your core classes right away. What a lot of people don't realize about vets that transfer in as sophomores and juniors is that we have to meet the in-house residency requirement for credits. We have to do usually anywhere from 20 to 30 core course credits, and those things fill our schedules very quickly. So if we only have 4 to 6 semesters at a school like U of M, it really eliminates all of the electives and the fun classes that people who start as freshmen usually get to fill 1 or 2 of those classes each semester. So, you know, there are a lot of courses here that we wish we could have taken, but we couldn't because our semesters are so clearly defined by graduation requirements. But I think a helpful thing for students that are, you know, veterans that are thinking about what school they want to go to is to look at how much of their time is actually going to be taken up by core courses and prerequisites, and get a start on those things early and do them at places like Washtenaw if they can. But having like Joel said, a clear path. I think in my case, I applied and didn't get in the first time because I only had maybe 35 credits. And those 35 credits were from a university in New Hampshire where I had a 4.0, but because I had been out of school for so long, U of M used my high school transcript in making my admissions decision, and I was not a great high school student. So it was really frustrating at first trying to get in because I felt like my performance in college while being active duty was not really given the weight that I wanted it to be given. And at the time I was frustrated because I had to go to Washtenaw and do a full year there and use more of my GI Bill than I originally intended on using. But in retrospect, I think I learned more being in a small, like 15-person biology course at Washtenaw than I would have here in a 300-person course at U of M. So it was great for my prerequisites. But I will say that I did not fully understand how the U of M admissions decision would be made when I originally applied. And thankfully I got to Washtenaw. I met Jan and the other women in that office, and they helped me with my application, and they explained everything to me about what I would need to get into U of M. So, you know, it's a mix of good and bad, but I will say that clear path, helping incoming students understand what carries the most weight in their application, is very helpful.
Yeah, definitely. And I agree with that. Yeah, the not getting to, you know, try any of the different classes or interesting classes kind of sucks. Like I think I just had my academic advisor appointment, and it was basically, all right, here's what you're taking next type of thing. Not oh, would you like to try this or that? It's like, here's what we're trying to meet this deadline. So you have to take this, and this. You know, I'd love to take underwater basket weaving or something like that, but you know, I'm not afforded the time to do it.
At U of M Flint, we have, for undergraduate students, we have general education requirements, and students can take things like fine arts. There's a huge variety of classes in fine arts, and health well-being is covered by your PT joint service transcript or Air Force transcripts information. So that's one less class to take for health well-being, but we have a lot of other selections. And we usually suggest that you save some of your gen eds so that when you have a gap in your major requirements that don't take you to full time, especially for VA benefits, that you can fall back on some of these gen eds to fill in those gaps. Some of the gen eds may be filled by major requirements, but the things like global studies and fine arts, for instance, that can help fill in those gaps for benefit purposes. So we do have those options available for undergraduate students to look at. And like I said, there's a huge variety of different classes that are available, humanities, social sciences. So we do offer that opportunity.
And that's at U of M Dearborn
Flint.
or Flint, I'm sorry.
Yeah, you're also able to, under Post 9/11, if you're using Post 9/11, that last semester, I mean, I know it's not the full thing, but that last semester, you're allowed to fill out your semester with other classes if you don't have full time. So, I mean, if you have, one major class that you have to take for graduation, you can actually go up to full time taking underwater basket weaving and volleyball and things like that you might want to take. But yeah, I wish you were a little more flexible on the whole time thing.
That rounding out though, VA is phasing that out as of
Really?
August 2021. So please be aware of that. And it's not a popular decision by any means, especially with us certifying officials. But that is being phased out as of August. I think it's August 1st, 2021.
Taking all the fun away.
Oh,
so
well, it's not just that.
I do want to thank, we're at time, so a little bit over actually. I want to thank our panelists for being here. I want to ask our panelists if they can remain. We have somebody from the Michigan Daily who wants to kind of do a little short interview with you. But on this Veterans Day, for all of you, and definitely anybody in kind of watching today and anybody watching on our stream afterwards, happy Veterans Day, and thank you for what you did, and what you're continuing to do, and for our students, thank you even more for what you're gonna do when you get out of this college life and start your career. So thanks everybody for joining us today, and we look forward to seeing you at some more panels.
Thank you, everybody.
And we'll save the chat, so I can send this out to you.
Okay.